Welcome to the Love Story Vlog channel. Queen. Alright folks, get comfy and enjoy this sweet and slightly chaotic love story. Hello, Dr. Lou. Hey there, Dr. Lou. The morning after our class reunion, my eyes hadn't even opened yet when my hand accidentally landed on something hairy. A leg. A very hairy leg. Curious, I couldn't help but touch it a few more times. Suddenly, bang! The door flew open and a group of men rushed in. Startled, I quickly pulled my hand back, sat up, and clutched the blanket tightly around me. Dr. Lou, the department head is looking for... The men froze like they'd been electrocuted, stammering in shock. Me. Dr. Lou. What, Dr. Lou? I followed their gaze and turned to the man lying next to me. His long, straight legs were covered in masculine, hormone-charged hair, and further up, I wanted to go blind. We didn't mean to intrude. The men quickly shut their eyes and began apologizing in a panic. I didn't recognize any of them. And as for the man in bed with me, I had absolutely no idea who he was. Still dazed and confused, unsure of how to react, the man beside me shifted under the blanket, cracked one eye open, and muttered in a hoarse voice, "Could you share the blanket?" It took me a second to process what he just said, and then I instantly let go. The blanket barely covered the sensitive areas. With his eyes closed again, he said lazily, "You're still here." Just as I was about to crawl off the bed, he sighed. "Wasn't talking to you." As soon as those words left his mouth, the group of men finally seemed to snap out of their daze. "The department head is urging you to hurry. Get moving." Then, just like that, they scrambled out of the room. Silence fell. I sat at the corner of the bed, clutching the blanket like a statue, completely frozen. "What are you afraid of?" His voice sounded groggy, like my trembling had stirred him awake. He cracked an eye open, gave me a helpless look, then shut it halfway again. I think it kinda hurts a little," I stammered, panicking inside. The second the words left my mouth, I wanted to slap myself. This time, he opened his eyes completely. His gaze lingered on my face for a few seconds, before he rubbed his temple with a sigh. Then, with some effort, he reached over and wrapped an arm around my waist. "It's your first time. It's always like this. The pain will ease soon." He was probably just trying to comfort me, but those words made a chill run straight down my spine. Then I looked down and saw a faint stain of blood on the sheets. I froze. His eyes followed mine to the same spot. After a long silence, his warm palm gently rubbed the top of my head. "Sorry, I kind of lost control. Cold sweat dotted my skin all over again. "Who are you?" I asked, barely able to speak through the discomfort. He let out a laugh. Not amused, more like annoyed. "You really don't know who I am, and you still had the guts to throw yourself at me last night." I don't remember." I curled up into myself, goosebumps crawling all over my arms. "Wait, I won't get pregnant, will I?" Wow, I had to give myself credit. Even in a crisis, I managed to cut through the noise and get to the real concern. He cracked one eye open again. He looked so utterly drained that I felt like even touching him might make him pass out. Just how wild was I last night to leave someone this exhausted? The thought alone made me want to bury my face in the pillow. "You won't," he replied flatly. I had no experience and didn't dare press further. If he said I wouldn't get pregnant, I'd believe him. After all, everyone called him doctor. Maybe he took precautions, I told myself, trying to find comfort. Well, goodbye then. To avoid the awkwardness that would surely follow once we were both fully awake, I decided to flee. He stared at me for a moment, then suddenly smiled. All right, I thought I'd never see him again. But 2 weeks later, I was sitting nervously outside his clinic, clutching a pregnancy test in my trembling hand. Sister-in-law, a young male doctor, jumped up in front of me. I nearly jumped out of my skin, heart almost leaping out of my chest. "Are you waiting for Dr. Lou?" he asked enthusiastically, like we were old friends. In reality, we'd only shared a few embarrassing moments that morning at the hotel. That morning, oh, the shame. 2 weeks ago, during our high school reunion, I got drunk and walked into the wrong hotel room. Later, I found out Dr. Lou was there, attending a medical seminar with his colleagues. Coincidentally, his room was right next to mine. He had caught a cold, and one of his co-workers had forgotten to lock the door on their way out. And then, well, the next morning, one of his co-workers came to get him for the conference. And that scene happened. "Yeah," I replied vaguely, face burning red. "Come inside and wait," the young doctor said without hesitation, pulling me into the break room. As we walked past Dr. Lou, he glanced at me with a look like he didn't know me at all. Honestly, I almost didn't recognize him either. I had never seen him out of bed, let alone looking this sharp in a suit. I sat there anxiously for 2 hours. Thanks to the nameplate on his desk, I finally found out his name, Lou Nian, cardiologist. A bit of snooping around told me he was 29. I silently did the math on the age gap between us. Later, Lou Nian came in to change clothes. He looked at me with suspicion. "You're waiting for Chu Suo?" "Me." "Dr. Lou, I'm waiting for you." I stood up, clutching my purse tightly, my voice barely above a whisper. "What?" "Me." Did he really forget everything after getting out of bed? 2 weeks ago, at the hotel, my voice trailed off as my confidence crumbled. Finally, I pulled out the pregnancy test and handed it to him. "I think I might be pregnant. Dr. Lou, it's lunchtime." A female doctor suddenly barged in. I panicked and hid the test, but ended up dropping it in the trash can. I stared at it, wondering if I should fish it out. Lou Nian stayed silent, giving me a sarcastic side-eye. "Is she your patient?" The female doctor made no move to leave and instead turned her attention to me. I stammered, clearly flustered. "Just some private matter. You guys go ahead." He didn't introduce me. The whole situation made me feel like a thief, caught red-handed. The female doctor clearly wasn't ready to give up. She even tugged on his sleeve, as if staking her claim. He already has a girlfriend. It felt like lightning struck me right between the ears. He acted like nothing had happened. Sitting down at his desk, he calmly began writing up a medical report. With a half-joking smile, he asked, "Feeling better now?" His words sent my heart racing. "More or less," I replied flatly. His gaze swept over me, then he flashed a smile again. "Want me to take responsibility?" I was honestly impressed. Here he was, still casually scribbling away on a patient file, like I was just another case in his clinic. "I just don't know what to do," I said honestly. I never expected him to take responsibility. I was just confused and didn't know how to handle everything. I asked tentatively, "Should I get rid of it?" I tried to look calm on the outside, but my palms were drenched in sweat. He didn't even glance up, still writing as if I'd said nothing worth noting. What a jerk. His indifference was driving me crazy. Suddenly, he looked up, staring at me directly. His voice remained emotionless. "If you've decided not to keep it, then don't." Yeah. Could I really keep it, given the circumstances? "Scared now?" he asked, a trace of mockery in his tone. "Yes." I could barely speak. "Now you're scared," he muttered, giving me a glance I couldn't read. Flipping to a new page in his file, he chuckled. "You're nothing like the girl from that night." Me. Did he really forget everything after getting out of bed? 2 weeks ago, at the hotel, my voice trailed off as my confidence crumbled. Finally, I pulled out the pregnancy test and handed it to him. "I think I might be pregnant. Dr. Lou, it's lunchtime." A female doctor suddenly barged in. I panicked and hid the test, but ended up dropping it in the trash can. I stared at it, wondering if I should fish it out. Ugh. Lu Nian stayed silent, giving me a sarcastic side-eye. Is she your patient? The female doctor made no move to leave and instead turned her attention to me. I stammered, clearly flustered. Just some private matter. You guys go ahead. He didn't introduce me. The whole situation made me feel like a thief, caught red-handed. The female doctor clearly wasn't ready to give up. She even tugged on his sleeve, as if staking her claim. He already has a girlfriend. It felt like lightning struck me right between the ears. He acted like nothing had happened. Sitting down at his desk, he calmly began writing up a medical report. With a half-joking smile, he asked, "Feeling better now?" Ch. His words sent my heart racing. "More or less," I replied flatly. His gaze swept over me, then he flashed a smile again. "Want me to take responsibility?" I was honestly impressed. Here he was, still casually scribbling away on a patient file, like I was just another case in his clinic. "I just don't know what to do," I said honestly. I never expected him to take responsibility. I was just confused and didn't know how to handle everything. I asked tentatively, "Should I get rid of it?" I tried to look calm on the outside, but my palms were drenched in sweat. He didn't even glance up, still writing as if I'd said nothing worth noting. What a jerk. His indifference was driving me crazy. Suddenly, he looked up, staring at me directly. His voice remained emotionless. "If you've decided not to keep it, then don't." Yeah. Could I really keep it, given the circumstances? "Scared now?" he asked, a trace of mockery in his tone. "Yes." I could barely speak. "Now you're scared," he muttered, giving me a glance I couldn't read. Flipping to a new page in his file, he chuckled. "You're nothing like the girl from that night." Me. I suddenly remembered how utterly drained he looked the next morning. Like he'd barely survived the night. I couldn't help but wonder, what on earth did I do to him that night? But the way he said it, it was like everything was my fault. That irritated me. It wasn't just me, you know. I muttered so softly I could barely hear myself. He paused his writing, raised an eyebrow, then slowly broke into a smile. "I had a high fever that night. You think I had the strength to resist?" That I was totally cornered. All I could think was, no strength to resist, but plenty of strength to torment me. Seriously, this guy was something else. Calmly talking about such embarrassing things, like it was just another day at work. I was no match for him. After a long pause, he said quietly, "If you've really thought it through." He resumed writing, then finally looked up with a sigh after finishing the last line. "Then next week." "Next week? That's when I'm free." He explained it so casually. All right. Adults have to take responsibility for their actions. I didn't object, but deep down I was terrified. A week later, I found myself back in his office. My determination to go through with the procedure had started to waver. It all began with a family dinner my mum invited me to earlier that week. My stepdad, my little brother, my mum. Everyone gathered, warm and cheerful. When I returned to my empty rental room, I looked around at the bare walls. The image of that family dinner still lingered in my mind, and I sighed. Loneliness, the kind I'd never truly felt before. My parents divorced when I was very young. Since middle school, I had been living in boarding school because my mum had already met my current stepfather and started a new family. She's happy now. I should be happy for her. But the cold, empty apartment drained every ounce of warmth from me. Suddenly, I wanted to keep the baby. I was just too alone. I knew Luke Nian wouldn't agree. No man would. He probably had a girlfriend. So when I sat across from him again, I was still torn with doubt. Back again to see our dear Dr. Luke. That must be Chuso, the one Luke Nian mentioned before. Yeah. I sat up straighter, slightly awkward. "Please don't call me that," I reminded him quietly. "No need to be shy." Chuso scooted closer, looked around, then whispered, We all used to bet on who would melt Dr. Luke's icy heart. Who knew it'd be you? The whole department respects you now. Huh? I was dumbfounded. I leaned in to whisper, "You've got it all wrong. We're not." But I gave up halfway. Doesn't he already have a girlfriend? Don't say stuff like that. Who? He suddenly looked serious. I've never heard of that. I froze. Wait, he doesn't have a girlfriend. You mean Dr. Luke's secretly seeing someone? I had no idea how to respond. Technically, I'm the third party here. Got too much time on your hands. A cold voice cut in from above. Look, Nien. I shot up from my seat like a student caught chatting during class. I opened my mouth to say something. Chuso grabbed a patient file and bolted from the room. I wasn't talking to you, Luke Nien said. After Chuso left, his tone softened. He reached out and ruffled my hair, motioning for me to sit down. Then he returned to his desk. My face turned beet red. Why does he always have to ruffle my hair like that? Doesn't he know it's kind of intimate and totally flustering? Why are you always so scared of me? He asked suddenly, glancing my way. Am I that terrifying? I nervously sat back down. No, it's just, you feel older. Like what? He seemed amused. Like an adult, I admitted honestly. An adult? He burst into laughter. How old are you? I'll be 22 next month. His smile made me a little shaky. It was unsettling to see such a serious person suddenly flash such a bright grin, especially when he had that kind of ridiculously good-looking face. Still just a kid, he said, the smile fading as he seemed lost in thought. Wait here a minute. He got up and went into the back room to change. Those few minutes felt like centuries. My thoughts were spinning. Chuso said Dr. Luke didn't have a girlfriend. I was 22 and had never been in a relationship. Meanwhile, Luke Nien, from his looks, to his demeanor, to his job, ticked every single box on my ideal man list. Of course, except for the fact that he was a total jerk. Still, I thought maybe, just maybe, I could try falling in love with him once. In the end, I gathered all the courage I had, stood up, and walked to the door of his room. I gently knocked. Dr. Luke, I have a question. I clenched my fists. Honestly, I wouldn't have had the courage to speak if we were face to face, but like this, with a door between us, it felt easier. He didn't reply. I hesitated for a moment, then decided to go on anyway. Do you have a girlfriend? If not, maybe we could try. I want to keep the baby. One sentence, and it felt like all my strength had been drained out of me. I stood at the door, waiting for his judgment. Then the door opened. But before I could hear his answer, someone else delivered the verdict. Through the loudspeaker of his phone, "Keep it. Of course you should keep it. If you dare touch that child, I'll disown you. You better bring my future granddaughter-in-law home, safe and sound." He leaned against the doorframe, handed me the phone, and continued getting dressed. The voice from the other end was so loud I could feel the fury vibrating through the speaker. Who is this? I took the phone, a ticking time bomb, my heart practically leaping out of my chest. My grandfather, he said, rubbing his temple with a helpless smile. Hey, future granddaughter-in-law, don't be scared. Once that brat Luke Nien comes home, I'll break his legs for bullying you. That baby must be kept. Do you hear me? Grandpa Luke went on and on through the phone while I stood there. So embarrassed I just wanted to dig a hole and crawl into it. All I could do was nod furiously and mumble, "Yes, yes." And yet, Luke Nien just calmly listened to it all, as if it had nothing to do with him, then sat back down and resumed writing his patient notes. Is he even human? I couldn't take it anymore. When the call finally ended, my brain was buzzing. I walked over to him and handed the phone back, not daring to look him in the eye. Trouble just follows me around. He gave me a glance and let out a deep sigh. I didn't know you were on the phone, I said apologetically. Anyway, Don't take what he said too seriously. He stood up and tried to brush it all aside. Dr. Luke, about what I just said. You heard it, didn't you? I got straight to the point. Even my grandfather heard it. What do you think? He shot back. Well, I waited for his answer. You should think it over. I took that as a rejection. My body froze. Hands and feet turned ice cold. Why? I couldn't believe I still had the strength to ask that question. He paused, stunned for a moment, then sighed. You're still too young, too good, and I'm not exactly what you'd call a good guy. He glanced at me again and muttered under his breath. Chuso is too small. I blushed instantly, having no idea which part of small he was referring to. To this day, I still don't know how I managed to walk out of that office. His last sentence kept echoing in my mind. The best way to correct a mistake is to stop the losses in time, not cover one mistake with another. I promised to postpone the surgery and hurried out. 2 days later, just as I was falling into despair, I was ambushed by Luke Nien's entire extended family. His grandpa, grandma, maternal grandparents, parents, uncles, aunts. All day long, I was bombarded with phone calls, almost to the point of madness. To summarize their message, keep the baby, leave Luke Nien to us. How exactly were they planning to handle him? Honestly, no one could stand against a family storm of that magnitude. Sure enough, the next morning, Luke Nien showed up at the door of my rental apartment. What are you doing here? I opened the door, stunned. He leaned against the wall, a cigarette between his fingers. His face looked ghostly pale. Ashes were scattered all over the ground. Just here to deal with a little trouble of yours. He ruffled my hair, gently nudged me aside, and walked straight into the room. Sorry, I didn't expect your grandpa to have my number. I felt guilty seeing how exhausted he looked. He stubbed out his cigarette without saying anything, then slumped onto the sofa and gave a weary smile. Had a night shift. I'm beat. Mind if I nap here for 2 hours? Of course not. I quickly cleared away a pile of plushies so he could lie down. Honestly, that tiny couch looked way too small for his tall frame. He had to curl up awkwardly. Still, he fell asleep almost immediately. He said 2 hours. But even when the time was up, his face remained buried in the cushion, looking so drained that I felt a sudden pang of guilt. I didn't have the heart to wake him. Unexpectedly, at exactly 8:30, he woke up on his own. He glanced at his mechanical watch, stood up, brushed off his coat, and said, "Let's go. They're open now." He was full of energy, completely different from the man who had collapsed on my sofa earlier. Go where? I asked, confused. My heart had been pounding for the last 2 hours. After being rejected once, every meeting with him made me feel awkward and nervous. Where's your household registration book? His eyes locked onto mine. It's not here. It's with my mom. My heart skipped a beat. He looked at me for a long moment, then chuckled and sighed. Then we'll have to go there, won't we? By the time I came to my senses, the two of us were already standing beneath my mom's apartment building. Totuyet, Luke Nien, suddenly called my name. Have you thought this through? Thought what through? My mind was completely blank, but out of habit, I still replied, yeah. Everything I said earlier was true. I'm usually very busy. Out of 7 days a week, I spend 6 at the hospital, and the remaining one, still on call. I'm the type who finishes a task, brushes off my coat, and leaves. Oh, I get it. You're doctors. Saving lives, serving the world. So noble, I mumbled, not knowing what else to say. He stared at me for a second, as if trying to see if there was any trace of sarcasm or doubt in my eyes. That look made my heart sink a little. All right then. And with that, he led me upstairs. At first, my mom looked surprised, but after whatever it was, Luke Nien said to her, she suddenly beamed like a blooming flower. I thought the complicated situation of my family would put him in an awkward spot. But to my surprise, He handled it all with such ease. Just a few words, and he had both my mum and stepdad completely on board. After dinner, my mum practically shoved us out the door. Go on now, or little Luke will be late for his night shift. Me? What kind of love potion had he fed my mother? How could she hand over her daughter to a man she had literally just met? And so, in this hazy, half-dreamlike state, I followed him to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Even after reciting the wedding vows, I was still reeling in disbelief over this lightning-fast marriage.